Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and iTWire TV interview. I'm joined today by three executives from Aurecon. We have Chief Information Officer Carl Duckinson at the bottom left. At the top left, we have Andrew Muller, the Chief Financial Officer. And at the top right, we have Liam Hayes, the Chief People Officer. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Alex.
G'day. So, gentlemen, Aurecon is a multi-award winning company that describes itself as an engineering, design, and advisory company, not as we know it, and that you've reimagined engineering operating in over a dozen markets and locations worldwide. So what can you each tell me to encapsulate what makes Aurecon different, along with its innovation and success in a nutshell, as you describe Aurecon in 2021?
Well, maybe if I go first, Alex. I think a lot of it comes down to if you look at our purpose, and we talk about bringing ideas to life. And I think we operate in an environment where all of our clients are operating in very complex environments. So we get to solve some pretty complex and I guess wicked problems, as you could call them. And so we have to be innovative. We have to collaborate with our, with both internally and with those sort of clients to sort of, I guess, really solve those sort of problems.
And Carl?
One of the things about Aurecon is it's got a lot of passionate people, and we are pretty good at making decisions quickly. There's a lot of focus on not jumping straight to the solution, actually thinking about what that problem is that we're trying to solve. And so we have been taught to really ask the question why. And one of the things that Aurecon's done really well is it's recognised the importance of storytelling. So being able to get to the story and explain the why before you jump in and come up with a solution. But once you get people on board with the problem that you're trying to solve, we do act quickly.
Liam?
Building on what Andrew and Carl have said, I think at the core of our culture is leadership, and a lot of our change and transformation has been driven in terms of the passionate leadership that exists within the business, but then cascading that down to our people and making sure that our people have actually been equipped with the necessary skills and mindsets and capabilities to go on this transformation journey with us over the past 5 years.
Well, it's interesting to hear some of the stories, in brief about that. We're going to talk a lot more about it. But one of the things one of the reasons why we're talking to you today, all three of you in this one interview, is because of how the current pace of change is outrunning the ability of many organizations to keep up. Now, that's been dubbed by some as the acceleration gap. And that's how digital transformation is the key element in the response to that acceleration gap. And, we've heard of digital transformation over the years, many times. I'm sure many companies have gone through many different sets of digital transformation as the technology has matured and the way that it's all done and the sophistication has improved. So what is the backbone of digital transformation within an organization? Because you can't just attack it willy-nilly. Carl, you were saying how it's important to listen before jumping headfirst into a solution. But, who are the key architects of digital transformation? Who are its enablers inside of an organization? And, to ensure that a company doesn't just survive in these challenging times, but actually is able to thrive.
Yeah, Alex, I think you touch on who are the architects, and I think that's a really important question, because gone are the days where it used to just be the CIO or maybe more recently the Chief Digital Officer who were the architects of technology and technology enablement. I think the thing today is that every C-suite member has to be a digital leader, and every digital leader or C-suite leader has to have a strategy where digital is core. So I've been in a lot of CIO roundtables over the years where CIOs talk about the fact that they should own digital and be leading from the front. But I think those days are gone. Everybody needs to be leading from the front when it comes to digital.
Well, it used to be that IT was just one part of the business, and then of course IT became the business. Everything became part of the business. Everything, it was an IT part. It was an essential part, and it's the same with digital transformation. If everybody isn't taking ownership of that, then people are going to be left behind, and some people will be advancing, and you won't break those silos down that you're supposed to break down with digital transformation.
I think, Carl, I think you're spot on. I mean, one of the things that we always make sure from a from a finance point of view, when we have people in the organisation, as we said earlier, who are out there doing these sort of amazing feats of digital engineering and working with all these great tools and techniques and whatever. And the last thing you want them to do then is to come back into the office and sit there and try to grapple with, put their time in on an outdated system or grapple with spreadsheets to get their job done and do all those things. So you have to be able to create an environment where those people can thrive, right? And so all parts of the organisation sort of, I guess, set out with and we certainly set out with our sort of digital transformation sort of journey with that in mind, right? So how do we actually make sure that those people can thrive and can get on and do what they want to do without getting sort of stuck back in, day-to-day old antiquated systems, old clunky processes, all those sort of things.
And of course, you have to be doing that internally to be able to be teaching other companies, other organizations how to do it, and you have to be, eating your own food, as they say.
Well, we say to be sense makers for our clients, we've almost got to be sense makers for our people, right? So we have to be able to clear that path for them. So.
And speaking of people, Liam?
Yeah, so I think, Alex, the other bit for me is that obviously the question around who's the architect, and Carl talked about, obviously it's not just IT, it's the C-suite and all leaders. But ultimately, key to making any digital transformation a success is how do you actually shift the mindsets and capabilities of the entire workforce? Because you can have the latest technology and go on this transformation journey, but if people don't change the way they work and how they use the technology, then you may not actually realise the full benefits of your digital transformation.
What do you do to really get that through an organisation and get that mindset changed?
So I suppose give an example of our most recent digital transformation has been Workday Financials, which has been a major transformation for us. And we've done that transformation largely while most of our workforce is working from home during the current pandemic. And so we had to think differently. Typically, we would have done in-person classroom training and you drop things on people's desks and so forth. And we've had to go to a combination of using e-learning modules and then virtual drop-in sessions for people as well, and being quite targeted as to who needed to know what. I think that's a really important part of any digital transformation is being quite clear on what are the personas of the different users of that technology, how you expect them to use it, the shifts they need to make, and then what are the skills and capabilities that they will need to go on that journey.
I think more broadly, one of the things that Aurecon does is that we're trying to lift the digital literacy of the entire organisation. Mm-hmm. So we do have targets around making sure that every person within the organisation picks up at least one digital skill or competency as part of their career development. So it is a goal that we've got across, all of the things that we do that can be digitised or done in a digital way or a new way.
I think the certainly the ways that, as Liam said, the fact that we're working and doing all this sort of transformation work in lockdown, and we're all at home, and most of the people, we went through most of the journey on Workday Financials, and there was a whole, probably I'd say the majority of the project teams never met face to face ever. Mm. And so there's challenges that come with that about how you actually engage and roll through that. But then as Liam said, when you start to roll that out to the people, I think the thing for us was making sure that we could keep it simple and have systems and tools that in some ways are intuitive for people to use. And then obviously you've got to have a network of people through the business who can be there to help and to guide and steer teams through. But I think that simplicity is a key thing for me.
So when did you first start hearing about the term digital transformation? I mean, how long ago did it start? And you mentioned Workday. How did you come to the decision that this was the platform that you needed to implement to make the digital transformation work?
I think there's probably a couple of things in that, and I might start with, from a finance perspective, I think we, probably like most organisations, our finance systems and landscape was put in place maybe 10 to 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about the way the organisation's evolved since then, we're a very different business to what we were way back then, and we're basically trying to transform as an organisation off the back of systems that were put in place for a strategy that you sort of left long ago. Mm. And so I think you get to a point where you cobble along with that and you put together, whether it's another system, plug other things in, Excel, lots of hard work and sweat. But eventually you get to a point where that just holds you back and you go, you've got to make the change. And I guess that's probably where we were 2 or 3 years ago. Liam can talk to the Workday journey, because we started with the Workday journey, I guess, from a HR perspective, probably a couple of years before that. So Liam, I don't know whether you wanted to talk a little bit about how you started that piece.
Yeah, happy to, Andrew. So as you mentioned, we started the Workday journey with HR over 5 years ago now. And it was the realization back then when we looked at our HR technology infrastructure, it was a mixture of off-the-shelf systems, home-built systems, and a lot of Excel spreadsheets. Yeah. And that didn't make a lot of sense for a professional services business where our people are everything. They're centered to obviously being able to bring ideas to life for our clients. So that really, at that point, allowed us to go into the market and say, well, there's got to be a better answer here, and let's start this. And as a business at that time, we're also starting our broader digital transformation journey. So it was quite a unique opportunity from a HR perspective to go out and look at the products. And I was quite impressed by how much they'd evolved from when I'd probably last looked at them. But what ultimately then led us down the Workday path and selecting Workday was really our alignment to their vision of where they wanted to go with the product. And to what Andrew said before, the simplicity of it was really important, that we were having a younger workforce join us that had expectations of consumer grade products that they were used to using at home in the workplace. And that's what we felt Workday delivered, both as a desktop version, but more importantly as a mobile version. That for us, not all of our people are always based in an office. They can be out at project sites, and being able to access Workday on their iPhone or on their iPad was a key part of the decision. When we started that journey 5.5 years ago, we started with the core HCM module of Workday. And then over the past 5.5 years, we've continued to grow with the product. We went from core HCM, we added on then recruitment and onboarding, we added on learning, and now we're looking at Workday Journeys as the next evolution. And I think that's really important for us, having a technology partner that's continuing to invest and innovate in the product.
Any comments from you, Carl?
Yeah, so obviously Workday was born in the cloud and it was built for the cloud. So unlike a lot of the more entrenched vendors in the marketplace, it doesn't come with 25 or 30 years of deep industry or industry-specific or line of business applications that they're now trying to work out how to get off-prem and into a cloud platform.
Or that legacy is not there.
Yeah, there is no legacy. So obviously choosing a provider that has been established in the cloud, you get the cloud value proposition, which is the upfront investment is less, the time to value is therefore quicker, and as Liam said before, once you're on that platform, Workday just keeps coming out with new ways of being able to do HR, finance projects. And so we're seeing this continual release of new features that we have no choice but to go with the program. So there's a real advantage there with Workday, and obviously it comes with a modern workplace. The user experience is designed just in the same way that a consumer uses any other app on their iPhone. You can use it that way, and I think that just the fact that it's in the cloud, I was talking to their chief information security officer about 18 months ago before COVID hit, and he has more security professionals in his organisation than I have in the IT department. So I know that they treat information, very, very, it's very important. And I know that our information is safe with them when they've got that sort of capability behind them. And that comes in many facets, whether it's security, support, availability, performance. So I spend more time, working with people like Liam and Andrew than I do worrying about whether my data center is secure and it's up 24/7.
And Liam, you mentioned you'd seen how Workday had evolved, but how did Workday come back to your attention? Was it a trade show? Was it talking to other people in the industry? How did it come back into your orbit?
Yeah, good question, Alex. I'm just trying to actually recall how that came about. I don't think it was a trade show. We were probably one of the, in this region, in Asia Pacific, there were very few customers at the time that we signed up to the Workday HR journey. Mm-hmm. I do think it was just through word of mouth that someone happened to mention it in a conversation at an event. Did the Google search, we set up a meeting, and it went from there.
So what have been the most insightful learnings? What has surprised you the most about the process?
I think for me, I think the fact that we were able to, as I said earlier, the fact that we were able to get through a process and get to go live only a few months back with our sort of the final financial outcome in a lockdown scenario, in remote and through a hybrid working, to me, I guess it didn't surprise me because that's what we wanted to do, but it was pleasing that we were able to be able to get through that process and to still have the courage and the commitment amongst our teams to be able to go live. I think that's been good. I think the thing that's interesting that we're already starting to see the benefits come through in terms of the remote working and the ability to use systems and tools throughout anywhere and any time. I think the thing that surprised me a little bit has been the quick take up of some of the tools amongst the teams. So we've gone from a standing start to getting 5,500 people to get a timesheet in on a Friday and do all those things that in some ways everyone goes, well, that's intuitive, but to completely change that around and completely get the organisation to turn towards a new tool is not without its challenges, sort of thing.
Alex, I think that if anyone had asked us back at the start of this journey whether you were about to embark on a transformation that involved a demerger, which happened to us just after we started, then the COVID pandemic hit and we literally had to think about how on earth are we going to do this transformation when we've got 6,000 offices instead of 60 offices all of a sudden, as well as obviously doing a lot of work on cybersecurity in the last couple of years. I don't think we would have even started the journey. So I think one of the learnings for me has been that you actually can make these sorts of things happen. And when I think about why, I think there's a couple of things. One is obviously related to Workday and the things that Andrew and Liam and I've already said around the platform being very easy to use and intuitive and those sorts of things. So having the right platform strategy, but also that fact that we've been on this journey for 5 years. So we've been using Workday since 2015. Most of our leaders are thinking about how does digital, fit into their business strategy. And so we've already had a lot of a mindset and a lot of strategies that have been working towards this point in time. So when COVID hit and we had to suddenly move to 6,000 people working from home, we were able to do it in a couple of weeks, in part because we had the right technology strategy in place. So we were already moving to the cloud journey. And, whether it was using platforms like Workday or Azure or Office 365. But I think the other thing is we had a lot of the right people policies in place. So we already had flexible working practices through our Yes Flex. So we were already very accustomed to having people working from home. And so we weren't going from no people working from home to everybody. We'd already had good policies and support around that. So I think, fortuitously for us, we had made some decisions many years ago that put us in good stead when we started on this transformation journey, so that when COVID hit, we were able to keep going rather than stop.
And Liam?
I think, Alex, the lesson for me over the kind of 5-year journey is how important the digital transformation has been to actually transforming the broader HR function. So HR has traditionally been known as a policy process-driven compliance function, and part of the digital transformation journey we started to go on with Workday was so we could actually reimagine what HR was within Aurecon as well. So by being able to really challenge ourselves and simplify our policies, our processes, and as much as possible, digitize those within the Workday platform, we're able to then actually think about, well, what then can, what are the value add activities that we actually want our people to be focused on with our leaders and with our people to actually drive performance and drive career and development opportunities for them. I couldn't imagine doing that if we were still working off Excel spreadsheets and in-house built systems. You spend more time updating and patching those up than you do actually on the value add tasks.
And were there any features that you could see that Workday needed that you said, hey guys, can you make this happen? And they did.
Yeah, look, I think one of the most recent ones we've rolled out is onboarding. So that's being able to digitize our onboarding process just before pandemic, and we've continued to evolve it during the pandemic with some of the new Workday functionality has been really important because not everyone, and particularly the last 18 months, can go to an office for onboarding, and that's a really important experience for people. The one we're excited about going on the journey next is the new Workday functionality called Workday Journeys, where we see even greater opportunity leveraging that new technology within the platform to digitize the moments that matter, the experiences that matter for our people during the various points of their career with us, whether that be a promotion, returning from parental leave, or joining the business.
Well, Aurecon obviously has a lot of customers. So how has Aurecon been able to implement these learnings with your customers? And then just out of curiosity, what are the sort of types of customers that you have in Australia and globally?
I think, so from a customer point of view, so we tend to operate with customers who are heavy asset owners. So that may well be governments who own transport or infrastructure type assets. They might be resource-based clients or manufacturing clients who own big plant and equipment, that sort of stuff. And I think that tends to lend itself as well to heavy in data at the moment. So I think the focus for us is what we've been trying to do is to help work with clients in that space, better understand their own data and how they can use that to better use their assets and better evolve their own asset base. So we've got digital leaders throughout the organisation who do just that. So they will sit with clients. They will work through how to help them solve their own problems. They're all grappling with. Everyone's grappling with they've got plenty of data and plenty of information. How do you actually use that to make decisions about whether it's how to use an asset, how to maintain it, how to evolve it, all those sort of things. And so that's been core for us now as to how we take learnings from whether it's from us or from other parts of the business through collaborating around problems with existing clients. Take that to others who are all grappling with similar problems.
So look, as you know, we've been beset with COVID, and that has seen a lot of digital acceleration. And in that acceleration, there's been an acceleration gap. Not everybody has been able to keep up. Not everybody has been able to accelerate at the same pace. And of course, as we spoke at the beginning, this is one of the areas that digital transformation is supposed to be helping with. And it's one of the things that you guys have been working on with Workday and your own clients. So do you have anything else to say about this acceleration gap and how you've been able to close it?
I think one of the things from my perspective, Alex, has been around how do we make sure that we can make decisions quickly. I think Carl mentioned early on around that sort of decision making and the fact that we continue to do that. So one of the things for us is making sure that we've brought together our people data, our finance data, and our project information in a way that gives us that, people talk about that single source of truth, but absolutely having that backbone through the organisation so people know that they can make decisions based on we're all looking at the same sort of data, we're all looking at the same information, gives us the confidence to be able to move quicker. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the bit for me is simplify as much as possible, but give people confidence to move quickly through giving them good data and insights as they go. To me, that's been key for us to be able to keep up on that, close that gap.
Yeah, I mean, before you talked about how there's so much information and, people need to figure out how to data mine it to their advantage. The old adage was that people spent, 50% of the money that you spent on advertising was wasted, but you didn't know which half. And it's the same with all this data that we're generating. I mean, by 2025, there are meant to be exabytes of data being generated every single day, huge amounts. And how do you make sense of all of that? And that's where you talked about from all this complexity, you've got to come through with simplicity. And
you're spot on. Yeah, you're spot on. And we made a conscious decision. So we effectively went through a process. We took our strategy and said, okay, well, that's our strategy. Therefore, that's what we care about. And if that's what we care about, what do we need to know? And then we designed our KPIs and metrics and data and things off the back of, if that's what we want to know, well, then this is almost like a strategic set of questions. And a piece of data had to answer one of those questions and drive an action. Otherwise, it just got left behind. So that's sort of the simplification piece that, as you say, and it's the same thing with our clients, right? How do we make sure we so much complexity they have with their data and how they do it? So how do we help them simplify?
What do you think?
Just going on from that, Alex, from a technology perspective, it's really important that whatever we do put in place in terms of our strategies, that we're not putting more complexity in place, because wherever we go, we need to be then focused on how do we keep moving rather than how do we stay still. So running a Workday platform, I'm sure, is complex, and that's where I want that complexity with my partners like Workday. I don't want it sitting in my own IT department, because my job is to focus on where next for finance systems transformation or people systems transformation. I don't want to be working out how do I keep the Workday system running. So moving to partners that can take care of that complexity obviously makes it look simple for me, because it's a commercial agreement and a relationship, not a technology stack that I have to work out how to keep running every day.
Yeah, look, I think for me, having a technology partner that's continuing to push the boundaries is really important. I think this digital transformation, there's no end to it. And so once you embark on this journey, you want to make sure you've embarked on it with partners that are genuine partners where you can help continuously innovate that product.
Yeah, I've heard it called as continuous improvement. Somebody was saying a few years ago, digital transformation is dead, it's continuous improvement. But of course it's continuous improvement. I mean, that's life. So
correct.
Yeah.
We've got to keep evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as we get towards the end of the interview, I have a few questions that are sort of nothing to do with Aurecon or Workday or digital transformation. It's just simply if you could please share your memories of your first computer.
So for me, Alex, first computer, I've got this image in my head of a big IBM machine and doing my assignment on it at high school.
And so that would have been in the DOS days or Windows days?
DOS.
DOS, yeah.
Still DOS. DOS. Yeah, I think I started on DOS and then moved over to Windows.
Yeah, well, that's how we all did. And Andrew, what about you?
I think I actually can't remember. I don't think we never had a computer in the house when I was growing up. You can tell from the grey hairs. I'm not as old as I look, but I actually remember the first computer I actually ever come across. A mate of mine's father got one. I don't know how he got it. He was a removalist, and I'm sure the house he moved, they didn't know what to do with this thing, and they had it, and it was like a Commodore 64 or something like that. It was, and we had no idea what to do with it, but it was just this fascinating thing that, we were all amazed that our mate had a computer. It was amazing,
Now all the kids take it for granted and couldn't imagine life without one.
Absolutely. Yeah,
What about you,
absolutely.
Carl?
Yeah, well, I remember the first computer at home was a Commodore 16. But if you think a little more broadly than that, I do remember playing Moon Buggy with my best friend next door on the old Atari systems. And I actually do remember thinking even back a little bit further. I remember a family friend that had, the old ping pong on the
Pong.
green
Yeah,
screen
the Atari Pong.
with the paddles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was even further, longer ago. But so, yeah, showing a bit of age when you're talking about green screen computer games.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my father had the foresight to buy me a computer in 1979, which was called an Exidy Sorcerer. It was an American computer. At the time, they had the Commodore PET, which was the computer from Buck Rogers in the 25th century, and the Apple I, which you had to sort of solder and make yourself. So that was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So can you each please briefly share your own history in the world of tech?
Sure, I'll go first. So I'm probably the technologist in the room. My career started straight out of school. So I started work at the Steelworks in Port Kembla as I think I did a Bachelor of Mathematics, but I was in the computing science department. So I joined into the IT or computer systems department straight out of school at 18. And I've been in technology ever since.
And Andrew?
Well, I'd probably say I'd say my career is probably not necessarily in tech, but certainly been in tech when you actually reflect on it, I suppose. So I'm an accountant, finance by background, but I guess probably over the last maybe 15 years or so, I've probably this last transformation is probably my third or fourth big ERP implementation. So I've always been in and around system changes and how do we make sure that we get the best out of our technology investment from a business perspective. I will absolutely confess I have absolutely no idea how half of it works, but I do know that if you embrace good people that do and are willing to go along the journey, then it's a hell of a lot of fun.
So was VisiCalc, Lotus 123, Multiplan, or Excel your first spreadsheet?
Probably Lotus, I think.
Yeah. and what's a little bit about your history in the world of tech, Liam?
Oh, look, so similar to Andrew in the sense that don't come from a tech background. I studied HR and business at uni, but I've always had an interest in technology, and probably through the lens of how do you actually use technology to make people's lives and jobs better, to make it more enjoyable. So that's kind of my interest in following technology.
So we'll go in the reverse order. Liam, how do you think that Aurecon will evolve over the next couple of years, and how do you see the industry in, say, 2030?
Yeah, look, I think Aurecon and the industry will continue to evolve through a continued focus on how we use digital technology. That, as we talked about before, that digital transformation is ongoing and it is only accelerating. If I think about it through the lens of people and HR, there's been a lot of talk, obviously, about the future of work during the pandemic, but the reality is change was happening pre-pandemic in terms of the future of work, and I think what we've really seen during the last 18 months is an acceleration of change, particularly around how and where we work, as well as shifts in skills and the capabilities that are required now to succeed in the future. And so, as an organisation and as an industry, we're going to have to go on that journey. And for us at Aurecon, is really leveraging our strategic blueprint and our pillars around innovation, digital, and eminence to deliver that.
Andrew?
Yeah, I think similarly. I think the reality is the engineering and construction industry probably is behind others in terms of its digital transformation more broadly. So that's going to it will catch up, and so we're obviously keen to ensure we're at the front of that push. And I also think from a internal, from a finance point of view, I think there's a huge opportunity for us to better look at how we start to use AI and get more predictive about our analytics as an organisation. So I think I look forward to that day where we can actually, really use those sort of AI techniques and tools and things to really create the insight that we need as a business.
And Carl.
I think digital is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. So I think organisations that prosper will be those that can grasp those new ways of doing things and make sure that everybody across their business is thinking that way. So looking at everything through a digital lens. And internally, I think that the platforms that we use today or traditionally have been a system of record, and they tell us what happened. But as we go forward, I expect we'll move from what happened to why it happened, but more importantly, what will happen next. So whether it's artificial intelligence or machine learning, I see a future where Workday will be telling us about what's going to happen in next quarter rather than what happened last quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know someone who's working on a forecasting tool for small businesses, and he's had great success because such sort of tools haven't really existed, and modern technology makes that sort of thing possible. Look, let's go back in the reverse order again, starting with Carl. My second last question is to ask if you could please share what is the best piece of advice you've received in life to help you get to where you are today.
Yeah, okay. So I think for me, it's don't worry about what you can't control, focus on what you can.
And Andrew?
I think probably take the most of every opportunity that gets put in front of you and see where it can take you.
Liam?
Oh, look, it's very similar advice to Andrew. I think just look for those opportunities, take them, and you'll always learn something.
Well, again, we'll go in the reverse order once more. And my final question is, what's your final message to iTWire viewers and readers, and to your current and future customers and partners? Liam?
I think just be very clear as to why you're embarking on a digital transformation journey. No company will have exactly the same journey. So be clear why you're doing it and what that looks like for you, so that you can explain it to your people and to your customers and partners.
Andrew?
I think the thing for me is don't be afraid to take that first step. So I think the days of having the sort of long planned roadmap of transformation over 3-5 years or whatever, that's old school. So you've got your intent, and as Liam says, why, but then don't be afraid to just learn and adapt and evolve as you go along. And I think that makes for a much more you get progress, but it's also a much more interesting journey, I think.
And Carl?
Yeah, so everybody has a view on what digital is, but I think everybody has a different view on what digital is. So I think what's important for other companies and their clients is to really understand what digital means for you and what it means for your clients before you embark too far.
Well, Carl Duckinson, Chief Information Officer, Liam Hayes, Chief People Officer, and Andrew Muller, Chief Financial Officer from Aurecon. Thank you very much for your time. I wish you the best of success and hope your digital transformation continues being smooth and productive. And I hope we can talk again in the future.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you very
much. Thanks, Alex.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.